You are now tuned into Flippin the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to episode 117 of Flippin the Birds. I'm Bryan Cameron. He's Morgan Burkett. Alongside us today is Kyle Hulehan, and we should be joined by Zach. I can never say Zach's last name, and I hope he forgives me for this. But we should be joined by Zach and Chris Fonte soon, as he just hit me up now. I do apologize in advance. I'm having a little technical difficulties today. Streaming from my iPad. So if you guys see me moving around a lot, it's just because I'm trying to get this thing situated over here. But other than that, how you guys feeling today?
Yeah, not bad. Sleet, hail, or rain, right? We're coming. Doesn't matter what what technical difficulties we're having. So yeah, I'm excited. The return of Chris, so that'll be good. Yeah, great to have Kyle on as always, and it'll be nice to have Zach on too. So. I wish we were talking playoffs still, but it is what it is.
Ooh, man.
How about you, Kyle? How you feeling, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Just that game just crushed me. I fall victim to it time and time again, where I just have I psych myself into it by Sunday. I'm just a fan in that way. I don't know.
We're winning no matter what. We're doing this.
Yeah. It hurts, man. It does. It hurts. And I hate that I'm always so optimistic about it, but that's just who I am. Bleeding green.
I hear you, brother. We do have Zach coming in now. Bam. Extreme. Zach, I can't pronounce your last name, but you are the Zach right now.
Good. Yeah, Zach Ciavolella. Yeah, happy to be on, guys. Sorry to be late, but I'm happy to be here talking some birds.
It's okay. I mean, we're missing one more, so everybody's just fashionably late, which is okay because we're.
Yeah, I beaten Fonte.
Late.
That's all I care about, honestly. I mean, that's the only race I'm going for.
Oh man. I guess we could kind of kick it off. No reason to kind of muddle until Chris comes. When Chris comes, I'm pretty sure anarchy will happen. But yeah, so Eagles suffered a blowout loss, 31-15 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We saw that beginning half of the season, the Eagles returned to their true form, apparently. Jalen Hurts looked completely off, completely lost, as Morgan told me multiple times during the game. And it's weird. We're in a weird position because before this game, everybody's like, yes, Jalen's the guy. QB1 of the future. He's the guy in Philly, no questions. Leave him alone. Stop bothering him. Don't take the pacifier out of his mouth. Let him rest. But now it's more like, hey, we're in the offseason. We got blown out by the Bucs. Jalen Hurts didn't beat any really good teams. If you actually look at his stats, I mean, he threw for under 60% against the top teams that they faced this season. And he has more interceptions than touchdowns against them. This game reminded me a lot of the Giants game, where it was kind of like he didn't look comfortable. He didn't look like he knew what he was doing, and that's a big concern of mine. You saw passes going behind receivers. You saw passes going ahead of receivers. You never saw actual accurate passes that kept the Eagles in the game. So we're going to play a little game because apparently I got roasted on Twitter today for not saying I like Jalen or for getting offended that somebody said I didn't like Jalen. But yes, we're going to play a game. And we'll start with Morgan. He's grinning a little too much for me while Kyle and Zach are keeping their eyes off of me. So, is Jalen Hurts your QB1 for 2020?
I mean, I feel like that's a simple answer for me, man. It's an easy answer when you actually take a step back and look at the team, man. This is a team that's not really one player away. They're not, one quarterback away. We saw what happened with the Seahawks, right? They're a very similar team in a lot of regards.
Interesting team to pick for this little segue.
Well, there's a reason I did. I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but even talking about the Raiders, for example, which is another team that I bring up on purpose. There's teams that are playoff teams, and there's teams that are Super Bowl contenders. And to be honest, even on paper, I don't think the Eagles are a playoff team. They snuck in there, had the easiest schedule, and did what they had to do to beat the bad teams. But this is not a team that's one player away. So if the question is, can you get a free agent quarterback that you feel good about for a low amount of picks, then Jalen Hurts might not be the guy. But if the question is, in the draft, are we going to select a quarterback in the first round and completely rebuild? I think the answer is no. So is he, QB1 for the next 5 years? I'm not sure, but is he QB1 for next year? I think he will be.
Okay. How about you, Kyle?
No, I don't see it. I'm not sure how he's going to be. I just, I don't know how he's going to be the quarterback next year. I just don't think Howie Roseman's not going to allocate, he's not going to draft 3 defensive players, or as much as, we think or would like him to just build the team in a different way. I think he's got 3 first-round picks, and he's going to do something. I find it hard to believe. I think the only scenario in which Jalen Hurts stays the quarterback in 2022 is if the deals are just not there to be had. Russell stays in Seattle. They decide not to, touch Deshaun Watson with a 10-foot pole. And then I think they may actually try to make some moves and maneuver a pick into 2023 to kind of keep that Bryce Young option on the table. But outside of that, I don't see how they could keep him as the quarterback in 2022.
All right, Zach, the floor is yours.
Yeah, for me, Jalen Hurts is the Eagles quarterback in 2022, and that's a lot more about necessity than it is actually Hurts deserving it. So, when you look at a lot of the quarterbacks in the draft this year, I'm not sold on really any of them, whether it's a Carson Strong, a Kenny Pickett, whomever. I'm not sold to the point where I'm willing to spend the first round capital that we have, and I don't have interest in drafting another quarterback outside of the first round either. So draft, that's off the table for me. Guys like we talked about Oakland or Vegas now for obvious reasons, Seattle, guys like that. If you're talking about a car, it's a little bit different just because of what you'd have to give up compared to a Russell Wilson. But what I'll just say for now, because I know we're going to talk about this more, is I'm not necessarily willing to give up multiple first-round picks this year and potentially more assets to get Wilson because his team is too far away to do that. It's just, frankly, not ready to compete. One thing that we saw in this game against Tampa, yes, Jalen Hurts really struggled. Yes, Nick Sirianni really struggled. The whole team struggled. I mean, letting that opening drive go for a touchdown, that set the complete tone for the game. And you can make the case that is part of what affected Sirianni and Hurts in a negative light. Now, their faults are their faults. They deserve blame for their own decisions. But that it still is a factor. And if you have so many holes, I do agree with Kyle, because we're talking about the defense. I don't think Howie's going to use all 3 picks on defense. I think they will trade back to trade for future picks as well. But I'm in that asset acquisition mode. That's what I'm trying to do, whether it's good young players, more picks. I think that's the direction the Eagles should be taking. And if that's the case, you pick the young cheap quarterback that you already have, see if you can turn it around next year. If not, you go for 2023, either a trade or draft class.
I'll just hop in real quick, Zach. I think honestly, I think you're right in what the approach should be. I think more what I'm commenting on is what I think Howie Roseman's going to do. We've been chasing the quarterback as long as I can remember in my time as an Eagles fan. We're always chasing the next great quarterback. And I think, the QB factory gets a lot of play, but I think that's what it is. He really wants to have the guy. And I think he's going to keep chasing it. And with 3 first-round picks, I don't see how he's not going to pull the trigger.
So I got called out for saying I don't like Jalen Hurts, apparently, even though I never said it. I'm so
Brian, how
offended.
could you not like
Mine's a little
Jalen
upset.
Hurts? I can't
don't know.
believe that you would
And
say
all
something like that.
All I said on Twitter was
He's a little
like,
upset.
it's okay to like Jalen Hurts, but criticize him. Like,
Yeah.
bro, like, you know, like just like people criticize.
No,
us
I
all
saw the
time.
tweet. You're 100% right. Like, you can like the person and still critique the player when he does things that are negative. I mean, that's just how the
Very
rule of
true.
thumb
If
should
anyone-
be for any sport.
If anybody
Any
should
career.
get critiqued, it's me. Like, honestly, if anybody's getting critiqued for it, it's me. I literally I've written a couple of articles about Minshew. Like, bring the heat to me. Bring the heat to me. Brian doesn't deserve it.
I might deserve the heat right now because I'm going to play a little devil's advocate. And Zach is perfect that you're on. Ben Simmons, talented, world talented player. We saw the potential in him.
You
saw
gotta
what he
let
could
that
be.
hang. You gotta let that hang about when you see. You just go Ben Simmons and then like just
That's
be
it.
quiet.
And
Like,
the
My
just
heart
let it-
dropped like the second that it came up.
So you see Ben Simmons, people want him to be LeBron because that's the style of play that he has, right? That's who he is.
Yeah.
They want him to be Giannis, but he's never lived to that because he's, let's be honest, he's a little bit of a diva. Now he's sitting out. We all had the hope in that he would reach his potential and be, the star sort of player we wanted him to be. Jalen Hurts has that same demanding personality where you want him to be great because he's just like, you love his personality. You love how he demands attention in the room when he walks in. He's that girl in high school that every guy wanted to get with at the end of the day. Like, that's literally what he is in Philly. And most of it comes from PTSD because of Wentz, because of what happened with Carson Wentz. Also, what it comes from is because they don't want to deal with another QB situation from what happened last year with Howie Roseman.
Mhm.
But I say F it. You deal with this situation because Jalen Hurts is a great person. He's a great individual that could possibly be a good quarterback in the NFL. But this is Philly. Philly doesn't settle for good. Philly doesn't settle for decent. They never have. They never will. You do what you gotta do, and get who you want on this team. And we all know who's the apple of Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie's eyes. It's Russell Wilson. Now, I don't agree with what the cost will be. I don't think they should sacrifice that many assets, especially when Jalen's still young. You could mold him to what you want to be for now. But do you honestly waste another year in hoping that he could be that guy and end up in a situation where like you realize, hey, he's not the guy. And what do we have to show for? Like, who are we going to go after?
Well,
I think
on what you.
Well, I was gonna say, now I was gonna bring in the chaos in the room. I don't know if everybody's ready for that yet.
Oh no. Here we go.
Jordan.
Well, Chris, you just missed a comparison of Jalen Hurts to Ben Simmons. So
I'm pretty sure you heard a little bit of it.
No, I didn't hear that. No, I didn't.
Oh, well, I was saying what people want out of Jalen Hurts is what they want out of Ben Simmons. They see the potential. They want that great potential to be something great in Philly. I personally think it's just a matter of just like, hey, like he may not be that guy next year or the year after.
But have the Eagles catered to Jalen Hurts like the Sixers have catered to Ben Simmons?
No, not yet.
Okay, so there's no comparison.
Well, I think along with that also trying to do Jalen a favor, I guess, in a sense, even though this is going to sound like an insult. Ben Simmons' limitations are very much in his control, where some of Jalen Hurts may not be. Obviously he can improve on things such as pocket awareness, his ability to read the field. Those are things that he can improve himself. But if you're doing things like if you're questioning arm strength, David Esser, who we're all familiar with, I got into it with him a little bit because he goes a little bit too far in my opinion. But he did bring up what I thought were fair questions based on a couple throws during the game about Wentz's arm in general, and it's not a weak Minshew arm, but is it an NFL caliber arm? Is it a top 10 quarterback arm? I think that's the question, and I'm willing to give Hurts the time to continue to work on. I'm willing to invest, the assets, is whether it's coaching, whether it's bringing in veteran backup
Can you
quarterbacks
honestly
to help him
be
get
patient
there.
enough to wait it out? Like, can you honestly tell yourself?
I can be patient for 1 year. I can be patient for 1
year.
year. That's the thing. I said Jalen Hurts is my quarterback for 2022. I don't need him to come out and be Patrick Mahomes at the end of next season. But if I don't see legitimate development, because if we look at where we are from last season to now, how many questions were really answered in a positive light? with Jalen
Right.
Hurts. Still there's a lot of the same questions that we were left with at the end of last season. So if we can get through next season, because again, the focus should be on building up the rest of the roster. If we can get through next season and we actually see legitimate development, then that buys him more time. So it's not a matter of, yes, this is the guy for the next 10 years. And it probably won't be for a few years, if at all.
Yeah. I think Zach makes a good point. I think like it's almost like sacrilegious to say that the Eagles may not win a Super Bowl next year, every year. You know what I mean? Like that it's problematic that this fan base expects, that it's playoff or bust every single year. Like I think that overall the Eagles are probably in a much better position if they don't make the playoffs next year. Right? They get a high pick, probably do what everyone's been kind of saying and use one of those first round picks this year to trade back and get another pick next year. How often is it that you have a playoff team with 3 first round picks, right? Like it doesn't happen very often. The Eagles are in a really good position. If they make the playoffs next year, fantastic. But if you're looking at, the next 5 years are actually a legitimate chance of getting back to the Super Bowl, I think that they're better off waiting. Now, I think the thing that factors in is you have this, this coaching staff you're trying to evaluate. You have a GM who possibly you're trying to evaluate. Who knows? It's been time to evaluate him. I'm not sure if Lurie is willing to do it, but if that's the case and how he's scrambling to find an answer and make the playoffs every single year, then that it's just going to be like constant turmoil. It's always going to be like we're going to be the next Dallas, where it's like we keep on finding excuses to make the playoffs and not win a Super Bowl, right? So I think that you're better off in the long run. You have a better chance at the Super Bowl, regardless of what year it is, if you do not draft a quarterback in this round or let this draft in the first round. And that's not even going into what's available in this draft. And I don't really think it's a very strong quarterback class. I'm sure more stuff's going to come up as more people do evaluate, but you're better off if you wait till next year.
Should we
Russell Wilson aside?
Should we allow the beast to speak?
That my wife says that. Ask me all the time.
Oh God.
Listen, I told you I was gonna be back with a bang, right?
No pun intended.
Speaking of, she's pissed that I'm on this right now because she's in bed. But anyways, so my thing is, I think you only move on from Hurts. Obviously, has had his growing pains. He's had his strides, this and that. In my opinion, you only, and I said this on a tweet today, you only move on from him if there is a clear and immediate upgrade, and if that clear and immediate upgrade doesn't cost you 3 first-round picks, or even 2 first-round picks for that matter. If it costs you 1 and it's like a legitimate, like clear upgrade, then maybe it's at this point, you don't want to be the Rams and keep trading away your first-round picks. But at the same time, when you have a guy like Howie Roseman who only really does well in picks rounds 4 through 7, trading one of those first-round picks for an upgraded quarterback, who are you going to get better than who are you going to draft that's going to be better than a franchise-changing quarterback with one of your first? If you hit on those first 2 firsts with Tyler Linderbaum or Jacoby Dean or Devin Lloyd or one of the corners, then sure, send number 19 away. I'm not on board of sending 15 or 16 away, but if it's 19, then fine. But looking around the league, it's not many guys I would consider trading for, even a second rounder, because of contracts and because of age. So I think the Eagles are, even if they want to keep saying Hurts is their guy, I don't think they have a choice but to have Hurts as their guy, because there's no other options really. You're not Lurie. Is Lurie and Roseman really gonna throw away 19 starts of development, in Hurts, to reset the clock all over again and draft a rookie? And when you have 2 aging linemen in Kelsey and Johnson, who knows if Kelsey's even back, and there's rumors swirling of Brandon Brooks retiring, and you have Darius Slay's not getting any younger, and you have aging, you have an aging line in Fletcher Cox, and even Hargrave, it's you have it's one of the younger rosters for the most part, but you still have aging impact players. And are you really gonna say, you know what, we're gonna wait another year or two for Ritter to develop, or Howell to develop, or any of these other guys to develop because you like a rookie? I just don't see them doing that. I think they see like the window of opportunity opened up a lot sooner than they thought. I think, in my mind, the window was shut at the beginning of the season because Hurts was a complete unknown. 4 starts in, who knows what you were getting, and now you're a playoff team with Hurts playing like dog shit most of the time. And what happens if you get an improved Hurts? And the schedule next year looks a little easier. So
what's the likelihood you see a Hurts that improves in his vision, improves in his timing?
That's the thing. Like how much can you improve in the stuff that you need to improve? I'm fine, Duck. Thanks for asking. How much, like, you can't really, in my mind, you can't really improve in the stuff that he needs to improve on without being in game. Like, he needs to improve his vision. He needs to improve his awareness in the pocket. He needs to improve his just standing in the pocket. What are you going to do in the offseason with
a better receiver would help a lot.
Yeah,
100%. You don't have to read the field when Devontae Smith is running the routes he does. So if you pair him with a Calvin Ridley, there's not much reading there.
Calvin Ridley is definitely help. Exactly, Brian. He's missing wide open. He was missing wide open Jalen Reagors even. And
Devontae Smith, you saw him that cross, right? He was wide open.
He's missing everybody. He's missing check downs.
The most obvious throw.
But if everyone's open, then he's got no choice. So
pray for 4 Calvin Ridleys, then we could definitely.
It seems like we're having the same conversation for Hurts that we had with Carson Wentz last year. How many times Carson Wentz we were like, he's missing the check down, he's missing Sanders here, he's missing Rager here, whatever. He's missing Sean here, he's missing this, and Wentz was doing that, and now Hurts is doing it. So it's
I do think the difference is real quick. Sorry, Chris, to interrupt your point. No, I do think the difference is Hurts will actually put in the work, but I don't know, and maybe Chris, maybe you have a better sense of this, or any of you guys have a sense of this. I feel like accuracy doesn't ever change that much in quarterbacks. Josh Allen, people talk about him all the time. He's an outlier. I feel like accuracy doesn't ultimately change that much, in my opinion, from what I've seen. But maybe you guys feel a little differently.
Yeah, I think with Hurts, like, a lot of the issues that I see are footwork. He's got a good throwing motion. With Wentz, one of the biggest issues, he's got a really long, slow throwing motion. So with that's like a very hard thing to rehab. I think you saw, I think the best example for Eagles fans is Mike Vick when he came back, out of prison and came back to the Eagles, and they rehabbed. And there's so many articles and so much talk about how they're rehabbing his footwork. And we saw just how much of an improved quarterback. And that's all after years of not really playing and then coming into a backup role. So I think with Hurts, like, there are things that will help with the footwork. But I think it's a valid point. If you can't see the field, there's only so much film you can watch.
Footwork is so great. It's so easy to work on the off season because it's just footwork.
For sure.
Before, it's like if you're not playing with a live defense in front of you from February till once you get there in training camp, how are you fixing your vision? Are you gonna say you're gonna watch film? Be like, okay, I'm gonna look for that next time. I'm gonna look for that next time. But you're sitting in a chair saying, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Once you get in the game, and then there's NFL speed coming at you. Like, oh shit, what's going on? If he can't do that, then he can't play. We had Lance Zierlein, in October talking about Hurts. He said said Hurts was Tim Tebow who can throw. And so they really don't see much different than that right now.
To put this
I think go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead. No, finish your point, Zach.
Yeah, well, what I was just going to say is, I think that you have.
Can I just say something quick? I like how everybody's still interrupting each other, even though I've been out for like 5 months. I like how the consistency. I like how this consistency has been going.
Well, we were all prepped before we came on, but
yeah. You all really come out one at a time after 8 o'clock. After 9 o'clock.
Yeah. To kind of build off of what Chris is saying, it's difficult to improve upon those certain areas in a drastic fashion during the offseason, So, again, what I initially said is that I feel that the best option for 2022 is Hurts, just because it's best opportunity to not give up assets in places where you can build up the team otherwise. And so probably around halfway through the season, you may know about where you stand on Hurts. If you can start to see that development, you're probably not going to see that in the first 4 games, the first, quarter, a little less than now in the season. But hopefully by about halfway through, you start to know, hey, do we got something here? Do we have to check out the trade market? Do we have to start doing mock drafts? Basically that would be the concept, at least in my mind, because you have to give Hurts a little bit of time to actually see if he can develop that. And the only reason I'm willing to give Hurts that time is because I don't think it's sensible to draft a quarterback in this class. And short of Russell Wilson, well, Chris is warming me up on the idea a little bit about Derek Carr, but that's all about
See, I don't know.
That's all about. I didn't like him. Confused. I haven't liked him over his entire career. I've hated him his entire career.
He was nasty this season.
I even lambasted him at the beginning of the Raiders playoff game against the Bengals, comparing him to Carson Wentz in a sense, because he makes some of those stupid decisions. It's not as egregious. You see it a lot with the fumbles with Derek Carr, but if you can get him for the right price, I'm okay with the concept potentially. That's about as far as I'm going to go. I don't know, but I would really much prefer. Yeah.
So before we get into the Derek Carr conversation, because Leafon kind of brings up an idea for me. So we're talking about Hurts, his first year. This was a rookie season, right? But Lamar Jackson started 7 games his rookie season. Patrick Mahomes played 1 game his rookie season. Second year, they all came in lights out MVP kind of seasons. At one point, do we stop making excuses for Jalen Hurts because because of the enamor that we have for his kid's personality, his leadership, and how much he demands the respect of his peers?
Yeah, Latif says better first year. It's not his first year. Like I get this.
Well, people consider it his first.
I know,
year.
but Hurts has had now 2 off seasons. Yeah. Obviously, it's been with 2 different coaching staff. It's been with 2 different coaching staffs, but still, like, and at the same time, he's had so much turnover. Let me just see if I can try and find the tweet that I had.
You're talking about the coaches?
Yeah, Alabama has been a new offensive coordinator every year. Then he goes to Oklahoma, obviously new offensive coordinator. Then he comes to Philly and it's Doug Peterson and every 15 offensive coordinators last year. And then now they're here. So he hasn't had consistency ever in his collegiate and NFL career. So I am curious to see is how he would be 2 years in a row in the same system. But at the same time, he's been an NFL quarterback for 2 years now. So when we say Hurts has had a better first year than Wentz did. Wentz was a legitimate rookie, and he started off on fire, 3-0, and great first. And then he obviously shit the bed the rest of the season. But then he had stuff to build on as a rookie, and then that's when he put into 2017. In 2017, he still has issues with fumbles and all that. We still were frustrated with him. He was just still playing at MVP level. You can be frustrated with a quarterback at some point if he's still playing at MVP level. And that was Wentz in 2017. We were frustrated with him in 2018, 2019, 2020 because he had his still all the shit that he had to work on. He still never worked on it, but he wasn't as good. Hurts, he has a lot of stuff to work on, but will he ever take the next step to be better in other areas while still figuring out?
And that's so much of a question mark for me. Like, I feel like I don't want wasted years in Philadelphia. I don't want wasted years of football. I don't want wasted years of Devontae Smith or Kenny Gainwell or Landon Dickinson or Jordan Mailata. I don't want that.
Or Milton Williams.
I mean, I'm talking about
or how about Jason Kelsey? That's who we're really wasting time with. We got the greatest center in the NFL, and we're wasting time.
Exactly. I don't want to waste any more time. If I'm Howard Roseman, that's how I'm thinking. And obviously, yes, you guys have a point. Keep Jalen Hurts for next year, see what you can do. You don't want to trade away assets. But at the same time, it's Howie Roseman. And I know he's not the greatest yet. But he's pulled off trades that we didn't think he could pull off for nothing at times. Like the guy got a first-round pick to – I'm sorry, Morgan. The guy got a first-round pick to trade away his pick. And he got Devontae Smith along with that. We've seen him do these things that no other GM is capable of doing. LA had to literally sacrifice the world to get where they are now. I kind of trust Howie not to sacrifice.
Do you think though that this team is one quarterback? If we get Russell Wilson in the offseason, I think a lot of people are talking about the picks, but we're not talking about the contract, right? Mm-hmm. So that's not just a couple draft picks. That's mortgaging your next probably 5 years, right? 4 to 5 years at least. So if that's the case, then you have to in your head imagine that this team is a Russell Wilson away from the Super Bowl, and I don't.
I think they're Russell Wilson away from being an efficient offense, an efficient playoff team.
But we don't know
It's
who our
defense
two
that we don't
safeties
know
are
about.
going to be next year. We're missing an outside corner. I mean, what's the pass rush going to look like? The defensive line, outside of Milton Williams, who I love, is only getting older. I mean, there's so many question marks on defense, let alone the fact that we need a veteran wide receiver. There's just too many gaps for me to comfortably make a deal where I'm giving up so many assets.
If we build straight through free agency, then you could make a Russell Wilson thing, work. But at the same time, how much money in free agency do you have when absorbing that contract? Like you look at Seattle, because you could build around a free agency. They didn't do that on this offensive line because they couldn't because of the contract, or defense. Once the Legion of Boom was done, what did they have on defense? Like, they got lucky in DK Metcalf. They got lucky in Tyler Lockett being so good for all those years. But what have they done in the running back position? But I will say, though, I think the Eagles are in better position than Seattle is currently to send those picks over to Russell Wilson and be a contender right now. Because if they were a playoff team without Russell Wilson with these picks, I think Rager would be better with Russell Wilson.
I also don't think you get a better wide receiver to come here with Jalen Hurts, seeing how inaccurate he is.
Yeah, I think if Devontae Adams, let's say, just put it out there, sees that Philly has Jalen Hurts, he's gonna say no. If he sees Philly has Russell Wilson, most likely we'll still stay on.
Or Aaron Rodgers.
And I will put it out there that
get that nutbag in.
I forget which podcast it was, but it was over the summer, and I want to find it. I did say watch for Aaron Rodgers to Philadelphia next year. I said it. It was back in August, I believe. So
so like you said, the Eagles are in a better situation than Seattle, for example,
because of the youth around.
But they're certainly not in a better position than Green Bay is. So even if you do bring in Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, the Green Bay Packers haven't been able to win a Super Bowl in years. They had a better defense this year. They have a better defense last year. Possibly even there's been a couple defenses that are better than the Eagles.
Would Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and whatever you put there at running back, is that better than Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Valdez-Scantling?
Well, I guess
it's a top-heavy offense. Yeah,
the threshold there is Tampa Bay, right? I assume that they're the team to beat if that happens to Green Bay. And
so then you look at Tampa Bay. They have Tom Brady, they have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Gronk. They have spread out offensive weapons.
The best offensive line in the league.
Yeah, so you bring
we're pretty close to one of the best offensive lines in the league.
One of the better pass.
Okay, I know. Like if you bring Russell, let's just play. The Russell Wilson game. Russell Wilson comes over. He lures a Devontae Adams or even Allen Robinson
or Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin. You have Mike Williams. All those guys, and now you have a legitimate 1A in Smith or even a 1A in Adams or Godwin or whatever, and a 1B. And a 1B. You don't have a 1 and 2. You have a 1A, 1B, and then you have Goddard, one of the best tight ends in the league. And you have a rushing attack that doesn't need even Miles Sanders. You could put anybody back there. They're going to rush for 60-70 yards. So it doesn't even matter. So, I think those pieces, would be better than, what Seattle, Green Bay has going on. But defensively, there'll still be a ton of questions. But how many times over the last few years have we seen the best defensive team win the Super Bowl? I mean, I guess you could say Tampa against the Chiefs. But
that's it.
That's a questionable Super Bowl, though, just with the injuries that the Chiefs are dealing with anyway. I mean, I wouldn't use it as a measuring stick.
I mean, the Eagles gave up 500 yards and still won the Super Bowl.
Eagles gave up 500 yards, but until then, we're a great defense.
Oh, yeah, but we're talking about how it was in the game.
Right. I mean, who made the play of the game, right? It was the defense. I just saying it doesn't matter, right?
No, of course. Yeah, no, it absolutely matters. You can't just ignore the defense. This isn't like, to bring in an NBA comparison, this isn't like, the Phoenix Suns with Amari Stoudemire where, you can score score more points than the other team. Like,
Brooklyn
obviously
Nets.
That's the end game. But, yeah, the Brooklyn Nets now. Like, it's not that kind of game that you should be striving, for. It's a balance. You even see that the Chiefs this year, their defense has looked much improved, especially as the season has gone on. If you look at the best teams, we talked about the Packers earlier, defense has improved. It's about balance, but you do need those playmakers on offense who basically you got to put it in the end zone. Like that's it at the end of the day. Like that's
you got
what
to have
game's
an
about.
offense that's able to put away the game. Eagles don't have that. They don't have that in Jalen Hurts. They don't have that. The rushing attack can only do so much.
You have to have that balance, of course. But I do think something that I think about a lot when it comes to Russell Wilson and that conversation is the Eagles' offensive line is at a level that Russell Wilson has never had. He's been out there running around, making shit up, like trying to figure out what to do. And you give him a real running game and you give him time in the pocket. He doesn't have to be hero Russ. He doesn't have to play hero ball. He can just scramble when necessary. He's definitely
in a sense kind of bring him back to where he was with his early success in Seattle. You're saying,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely, yeah. But he's better now, and that's the difference. Yeah. So I think
look at all the quarterbacks that are still in the playoffs right now. All except for Brady are pocket QBs who can move. Brady can't fucking move for shit, but it doesn't matter when he's like 50 years old and he's still doing what he's doing.
Aaron Rodgers, you can debate.
Aaron Rodgers is a primarily he can move more than he stays in the pocket.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Sure. Jimmy can move a little bit. He was moving against the Cowboys. He was moving against the Cowboys. But but they're not like stationary statue quarterbacks.
Right.
Like they can move. Russell Wilson is that times 5'10" because he's not a run first quarterback, but he can obviously move. But right now we have a quarterback who likes to move more than he likes to throw. And that quick, I love Hurts, but
it's not going to last long in the NFL. Something I really want to kind of nip in the bud. So Doug says Russell Wilson is also a QB on decline. I don't see that. I mean, the guy threw 25 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He had a QB rating, I think it was like 103, and he threw over 3,000 yards.
He missed his first few games of his whole career this year.
Yeah, and while playing with a bad finger,
and Seattle's in shambles also. I mean, you have to keep that in mind as well.
And it's proven that QBs this day and age are not the QBs of the 2000s, where hey, after 30 it's over. No, Brady's 44 years old. Aaron Rodgers is close to that. These guys are getting better with age because they're getting.
If you trade for Russell Wilson now, you're getting at least 5 more years of him.
Absolutely, yeah. I completely agree with that.
Of top QB play, and then after that, you're gonna probably have to build around to help whatever deficiencies he has. But it's
and if anyone follows Russell Wilson on Instagram, he is a fanatic. He posts all these workout videos. He's crazy.
He's Mr. Unlimited.
He's at that level of Brady craziness with how he's training his body and what he's doing. So I think it very well could be longer than 5 years.
On top of that, he's married to Sierra.
I was about to say Sierra keeps you young.
Yeah, she's flexible. Anyways, all right. Enough of the Jalen Hurts. Another QB talk. You spent 40 minutes on that.
No, hold on a minute. Hold on. Just quick rundown.
What is on your finger?
I'm gonna give everybody what?
What's on your finger?
I have a little bear clip on my bear on my finger. I'm gonna give a little preview to my article for everybody. I'm gonna run down every team, and I'm gonna give you their starter and their backup. Obviously, some won't be available, but you gotta tell me which ones will be a better and clear immediate upgrade. Bills have Josh Allen. Obviously, he's not going anywhere. Backups, Mitchell Trubisky. No. Patriots have Mac Jones. Obviously, he's not going anywhere. Backup is Brian Hoyer.
He's still in the league?
Yeah. Dolphins obviously have Tua. Backup is Jacoby Brissett, who's a free agent.
I'll take Tua.
I don't mind Brissett as a backup.
Brissett knows the system, but he's a backup. That's the thing. He's a backup. He's not an immediate upgrade. He's moving over Hurts. Jets have Zach Wilson. Obviously, he's not going anywhere. Backup is Mr. Philadelphia Eagle, Joe Flacco, and Mike White.
Pass.
No.
Mr. Audubon.
Maybe Mike White, yeah.
No. AFC South, Carson Wentz.
All right.
Okay. And
I could see him in it. I could just imagine him.
I could see him in a Eagles shirt. Yeah, I could. I'm gonna
green.
I'm gonna Photoshop later. Sam Ellinger, backup.
Who?
Exactly. Jags, obviously Trevor Lawrence. Backup is I obviously said Trevor Lawrence, but you're not trading for him.
The Jags had a backup who was pretty good. Whatever happened to that guy? He had a mustache.
He has a he's a maniac. You
mentioned Gene. You were Gene all the time.
CJ be a third. No. Texans obviously is the civil suit
Who the
guy.
hell is the QB of the Texans? For the Texans, though.
And then you got Tyrod Taylor and Davis Mills.
Davis Mills, baby.
Titans, Ryan Tannehill.
Is Tyrod Taylor a free agent?
Yes.
Don't even.
I mean,
think about
that's the kind of guy I wouldn't hate as a backup. He's
he's
second,
right.
third string. Yeah.
Titans have Ryan Tannehill. I think he's obviously better than Hurts, but he's not going anywhere. They have the number one seed. He's not going anywhere.
He's
he has
not the
2
kind
years.
of guy to invest in either because he's had a questionable career as far as talent and injuries and age. Yeah.
And then backups Logan Woodside.
Real quick on the Titans. The Eagles were the apparently the worst first seed in NFL. It's like, are the Titans not worse than the Eagles were that year? I understand they lost Carson Wentz, but the Titans,
like, what are the Titans get the first seed? My question.
The Titans are not like a good first seed.
No.
Anyways.
Julio Jones never plays.
I don't think anybody believes in the
AJ
Titans.
Brown had like 4 good games this year. That was it.
Right. AFC North. Lamar Jackson hasn't signed a contract extension yet. And
isn't he negotiating himself too?
Tyler Huntley. Cleveland, Baker Mayfield.
I give Huntley a shot.
No.
Just
wasted year.
I mean, you could go to Cleveland and get Nick Mullins back.
Or
I'm
Baker.
so glad you didn't say Baker Mayfield. I have no desire to have Baker Mayfield as my quarterback.
Cincinnati, obviously. Joe Burrow's not going anywhere,
Yes.
even though I would love to trade every single pick we have from now until
I'll
the year
trade the whole roster.
2100.
Do you think, while we're talking about Joe Burrow, do you think Liam can play quarterback? Could we just suit him up? Get
Only
his
if the
set
quarterback
and then-
position requires
just not available on Tuesdays.
Like, could he
Exactly.
talk to the
Yeah.
defense about the 1975 instead? Like, do you think that'd be an efficient offense? Or
If I'm sure, like you could just hear him at the line just yelling out lyrics, and just everybody just staring like, what the fuck is he talking about? And he snaps the ball, and just no one's going anywhere because they're just too busy sobbing at the lyrics. Backups Brandon Allen. Yeah. So Pittsburgh, you got Big Ben retiring and Mason Rudolph. No.
Absolutely.
is he still got that
Chargers.
debt in his head?
Yes. Chargers, Justin Herbert, he's a stud. He's not going anywhere. And then
Wait,
Chase
what about Dwayne
Daniel.
Haskins?
So he's a free agent. But
We
he's
could
like-
overpay Chase Daniels one more time, though.
That's what I'm
Why
saying.
not?
Yeah, that's right.
Give him a little more money.
Chiefs,
That man's
Pat-
an embezzler.
Mahomes is not going anywhere. Chad
No.
Henne, no.
No.
Broncos, you got
Really?
Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. No, Bridgewater's a free agent. Then you got the Raiders, obviously. Derek Carr, we talked about him a little bit. I'm so on the fence of him because he's had 4 straight 4,000-yard seasons. He has, he's a touchdown thrower this year. He passed for 280 yards a game, but he has the fumble issue. We just dealt with 5 years of fumble issue. So do we want that again?
So what you're saying is Russell Wilson is the only quarterback that the Eagles should be training for outside of Ryan Rodgers.
Here's the thing. Here's something to think about. If we're looking at someone who probably has, and this is probably not the case, but if we want someone to take advantage of these older veterans that we have, and maybe uplift these younger players, and maybe play with a guy he will be familiar with, who might be coming to Philadelphia via trade. The Falcons can get out of Matt Ryan's contract this year.
Philadelphia.
What did Matt
needed
Ryan
Matty
pass
Ice.
Philadelphia finest.
He's passed for a quarterback for the past few years.
I mean,
that's what he's been.
he had a down year this year, but like that happens when you don't have Calvin Ridley for 12 games.
No,
He
you're
really
But
not
I'm
wrong.
saying, what does he pass for? Like, what did he pass for this year? What was his stats this year? Is what I'm trying to say.
He was bad this year, but at the same time, like it was his first bad year like ever.
I
so-
think the chat disagrees.
This year, all right, this year, but you have to also. I'm not even looking at the chat right now. You also
What's
have
their
to-
saving for if Atlanta cuts Ryan? What's their savings?
But this is tricky. If they cut him, they could get out of his contract. But if they cut him before June 1st, it's a $40 million dead cap, and an $8 million savings. If it's
Boy,
post
who
June
takes a
1st,
$40 million cap hit? That'd just be insane.
only $34 million.
Atlanta might.
But if they do a post June 1st,
Mhm.
if they do a post June 1st, it's only a $24 million cap hit, and they save $23 million.
If
I
we
like
can
Matt Ryan.
sign him and we don't have to give up assets,
That's what
I would
like
consider it.
if it's a signing.
saying
If it's a
consider it.
signing, I'm not saying trade.
Yeah.
I would not trade for him because his cap number next year is $48 million.
But isn't that fixable? Like they can restructure these deals. I'm assuming.
But look, like I know he had Julio Jones,
like,
but really, how long did he have Julio Jones? How many times was Julio Jones hurt? It's like this past year, almost 4,000 yards, but he only averaged 233 yards a game. Last year was 286. Year before was 297. Year before was 307.
But he can't be Brady. That's the issue.
But
Why
we
bring
don't
him
have
here?
to.
He can't be Brady.
We don't have to.
Russell Wilson can beat Brady. It's a proven fact.
Anyways, Chris,
I think
point is,
Jay Fizzle can fucking kiss
anymore.
my ass. Jay Fizzle. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I think Matt Ryan's got it. He's got some good stuff. I think he would do well in Nick Sirianni's offense. Just like I actually think I think he would do well. Like I would rather have Derek Carr, but I like not having to trade any assets because obviously getting Derek Carr would involve trading assets. So I think for where they're at in their career, he's a bit more of a budget Derek Carr maybe, but he could probably play as well as Derek Carr. So then not giving up the assets is really good. And he's definitely would be, I think, probably better than where Phillip Rivers was last year.
Oh my gosh,
with the Colts.
Absolutely.
So they got into the playoffs, and I think you can definitely he's someone who could probably get you to the championship game. I don't know about the Super Bowl, but I think he's someone who could take you further as a pocket passer than Jalen Hurts is getting us right now.
Okay. So
here's a little tidbit I was just texting.
We've spent 46 minutes on quarterbacks.
No, it's about a wide receiver. It's about
Brian. It is the most important position in all of sports. All right, we will give it as much damn time as it needs.
This is about a wide receiver.
I'm shocked we've like gone down to the part where we're like, oh, is Matt Ryan better? Than, like, it's not that bad, guys. Like we went 9.
This is what happens when I come back.
We went 9-6.
Pretty bad.
With first-year quarterback, first-year head coach, first-year coaching staff, and the guy who is learning how to pass as he goes.
So here's a little nugget that might change our positions on a certain wide receiver we all want. So I was just told via text, and I'm not gonna reveal who texted me.
Was it me?
Apparently Calvin Ridley's, obviously he stepped away for his mental aspect, and he would have a lot of support here. He has his best friend Jalen Hurts, played with Devontae Smith. Lane Johnson him and Jalen Hurts were roommates for 2 years.
Oh, damn, we gotta keep Jalen Hurts now.
So
shit.
So I was just told that part of the reason why Ridley took, he didn't want to play. He was out of it, mental stuff. He didn't want to play in the slot. And Mr. Coach Sirianni likes his receivers to play all 3 positions. X, Y, Z.
Yeah, but the Falcons did have them in the slot quite a bit.
So would Ridley be okay with coming to Philadelphia and playing?
There's got to be more.
If that's information that's made known to Philadelphia, I think that's the kind of thing where you hear Howie and Jeffrey kind of overrule Nick to the sense like we kind of have to cater to this guy a little bit, and he won't be playing in the slot as much as maybe a Devonta Smith or a Kes Watkins.
Like my ideal is Smith on the outside, Ridley on the outside, Quez in the slot. That's my ideal.
And I don't mind alternating Smith in the slot.
He's replacing Jalen Reagor, who plays on the outside quite a bit, regardless, right? So,
and I will shout out to Ben J, who read my mock draft, and he talked about my trade brief before. So thank you, Ben. Avid reader, Ben J.
I don't have a receipt for that.
It's time to talk about defense. I've been sweating, bro. Like this is my time.
I want to talk about Nick Sirianni, but fine. We'll talk.
Okay, no. That's a good point. Let's talk about Nick Sirianni. We have got a couple weeks off pod, so we might as well talk.
I think defense is going to be more fulfilling, and then we'll leave Sirianni for the end.
Okay.
So you lead the way, buddy. I mean, my
all
over here.
Okay. I think one is are we shocked at the amount of interviews that Jonathan Gannon's getting? How much of the defensive shortcomings can we blame on Jonathan Gannon? I think going into the draft, obviously linebacker is a huge need. Is this the year that changes that? I mean, there's so much to talk about on the defensive side of the ball, but I think one of the things that's kind of being overlooked is just how terrible the safety play was.
Thank you.
On the
Marcus
defense.
Williams.
Right. So this is one of the, I think that, you know, everyone's talking about, okay, at least one of those 3 first-round picks has got to be spent on offense. But you know, Brian's been talking about a wide receiver, but I think, you know, it's probably the best case scenario that they get a Tyler Linderbaum, and then spend the next 2 on defense, whether it be a safety, you know, is it going to be a linebacker? We hope it's a linebacker. I'm not sure.
Jaquan Brisker, best of both worlds, Malcolm Jenkins comp.
Right,
He does have
exactly,
Malcolm Jenkins.
and you know that Jonathan Gannon, whether or not he's here, you know, that provides some versatility. Which I guess like the central question is, regardless of what happens, if there is a huge upgrade in talent on the defensive side of the ball, do we think Jonathan Gannon can take that talent and do anything with it, or not? So I mean, Brian's doing the thumbs down, but Kyle's on my. I guess this.
I got you. I got you.
Wait, so that's that making me last?
I do believe in Jonathan Gannon. But I don't think we've ever had like the players or the people he needs. He really needs he needs linebackers. He needs one great linebacker. He needs, you know, safeties who are able to actually cover the field. Safeties who can run. It's like shocking that we don't have safeties who can literally move. I think, but at the same time, I don't know why he's getting interviews. He was terrible against every good team. Like my belief in him maybe is like not like super well placed right now because he didn't show us anything against great teams. I think I believe in the scheme that he runs maybe more than I currently believe in him.
The development too, right? Like there's definitely been some development. You like to see that.
My question is, what is the scheme that he runs?
Cover 2.
He doesn't know what scheme. Are you sure about this? He still doesn't know what scheme he runs.
And bend don't break is what he's trying to do. But they break a lot, and they throw in some man.
I think there's been a good mix, more of a personnel, but it's been a good mix of Gannon not knowing what the hell he's doing. And then once he figures out what the hell he's doing, he doesn't have the personnel to do what he wants to do. So, like we saw
but isn't that the makings of a bad coach?
I think he showed makings of a good coach by adapting to what he had, but at the same time, when he adapted to what he had wasn't good enough to stop the good quarterbacks. So, you know, I mean, it's obvious that, you know, teams respect him. You know, he would not be getting head coaching interviews if he wasn't respected. I'm sure he's going to, especially the Vikings and the Broncos. I'm sure he's going to these people and saying, "Listen, my scheme would work with a Bradley Chubb. My scheme would work with a Justin Simmons. My scheme would work with a Harrison Smith because a Fletcher Cox is a defensive lineman. You know, you can make the things.
I mean, he can cover, right? Doesn't he love to cover?
Yeah, he could put him on the screen." But you can make the defensive line better. You can make your defensive line better by having good coverage on the back end. Like if you have good linebackers, good safeties, and good corners, not allowing these players to be open, then your defensive line is going to get home. We haven't had a line. We've had such an expensive line with really good players not being able to do what they usually have been able to do in the past because we have such bad players in the back end that it's just been easy completions, you know, over and over and over. We had like an 8-game stretch of like 75% completion, you know, or more. So we had just bad players back there.
I think there's something to be said before Brian says his piece, because I think there is something to be said, and I think that this will add to the conversation. There's something to be said that like there were definitely adjustments made throughout the year that masked just how bad some of these players were playing, right? Like Alex Singleton had a year that's probably going to get him a contract and did not play well. Rodney McLeod had one of the worst seasons he's had as a pro. And Anthony Harris was not a shell of the player that we thought we were getting, and still had some games where he was not just not a liability, but an all right player. So there's something to be said for what Chris is saying. I'm just putting that out there. I don't necessarily agree with what he's saying, but yeah.
So here's my beef with that. We're saying that he doesn't have good players. He has a good defensive line. Point blank. We can look at that right in the back. I mean,
He has good defensive tackles.
Josh Sweat is a pretty good defensive end. He had veteran
For how many
corner.
snaps?
He had a veteran corner, and he also had Darius Slay. And yet teams were still like all the good teams. For example, Kansas City, they have 42 points on them. Dallas Cowboys, 41 points. Tampa Bay, 28 points. Las Vegas, 33 points. Los Angeles, 27 points. New Orleans, 29 points. Like these, and Dallas, of course, 51 points with practice squad players. But these good teams still hung up a wild amount of points against him. Like this is him not adjusting. And we saw the fact that corners were playing 10 yards out. There was barely any press coverage.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the season, there was barely any pressure on quarterbacks. So it's kind of like, what more does he really need? Like, is plugging in a linebacker here, plugging in one good safety, really going to fix all of this? I mean, if the corner's playing 10 yards out, that's Jonathan Gannon. That's not the corner's decision.
Well, there's some really interesting stuff going on in the chat as well, and I think this is kind of the crux of the matter is that like for all the things you can kind of allow Jonathan Gannon to get away with, there's a few things there, and the major thing is he doesn't blitz, right? And from my experience playing football, from my experience watching football, if you're not going to blitz much, you need to have pretty tight coverage because either the four are going to get home, right away, or they're not. And so to play, the way he does and not blitz many people and then play, off coverage a lot, and just hope that the defensive line who's kind of struggling is just going to get there. It makes sense when you don't have Darius Slay, and I don't think Steven Nelson was great, but if you thought he was the player that he is, then you have two pretty good cover corners. You want to put pressure on the wide receivers, and then you want to force the quarterback into again, you're not going to blitz much. You're assuming your four guys are going to get there. And then, you want to play, decent coverage. You're just playing the shell where, we're talking about the sack rate was terrible, but the hurry rate was okay. That's because, the defensive line actually wasn't as bad as we think. It's just there was, off coverage the entire time. So yeah, I think that like for every like, for example, I don't blame the loss this past weekend on Jonathan Gannon. I think he came with a pretty good game plan. The one penalty
in the beginning, he laid off a bit. In the beginning, he saw Darius Slay 10 yards out from Mike Evans. Yeah,
always been a better second half defense. But like that one, he's one penalty away and a bad call on Derek Barnett away from a 3rd and long, probably get off the field early. That completely would have changed the tone of the first half, right? And then in the second half, definitely picked it up, had made some good stops, and then got their offense got a lot of short fields, right? Terrible punting, interception, some good returns, and so I don't think he did that bad, but I don't know if a couple players make a huge difference.
I think Gannon, he did okay in the game. My biggest problem with him all season was honestly that he really did seem like a second half coach. Like my problem was, if you can always make these adjustments, like why do we come out in this really basic covered 2 shell where guys are spot dropping? And I get it, our linebackers aren't that good, and there's a lot of issues in certain places, but like it always seems like it took to the second quarter or the third quarter for him to break out some calls deep in his call sheet. All right, we're gonna press Darius. Like, why are we always waiting for this? Just do it in the first quarter. And maybe he wants to see what they're doing and play a little chess. I don't really know, but it always struck me that we started out really like not aggressive at all, and then after a quarter or two, we're very aggressive.
Reminds me of my freshman basketball team. Today we lost 42-35, but at halftime we were down 29-11. So made a pretty freaking good run in the second half. I told them, why the hell didn't you do this in the first half? You know, we outscored them 24-11 in the second half. What the hell? Yeah, so it's, you just gotta. I just don't understand some of these coaches. They say, "Oh, let's sit back and relax," and then, okay.
I like how we're talking about how we need to blame the coaches for this, and then in your own example, where you're the coach, you're like, "Why do shitty kids not do it?"
Blaming the kids. It's the kids'
The
fault.
first half. The first
Don't
half
blame
was
the players,
definitely.
blame the coach,
First half was definitely personnel, because they
It was
did
their
not. I benched my starters the whole second quarter, and I told them, watch, and my second unit aren't great, so they played their asses off, and I said, hey, if you give me a reason to bench you, I'm benching you second half, and they made a run. So like maybe next time I should say in the beginning, I'm gonna bench you if you suck. So
Don't your kids listen to our podcast, by the way?
no, that was a few years ago. Not these guys.
Zach, let's get your thoughts on the defense, man. I feel like you've been kind of quiet on this one.
Yeah. No, I apologize. My headphones died, and anyway,
Oh,
long story
okay,
short,
man.
I'm back.
No, hold on. Duck. No, I'm not an Asian parrot, but I will say, I got my ass whooped if I got home with less than an A in my Puerto Rican household. I will say that.
So, moving on from Chris's grades back in high school, I think
college.
Who gives a crap? Anyway, Kyle, I think brought up a good point. Talking about Gannon, where I feel like at times the idea that he adjusted well and the defense played well in the second half of games was used as a compliment, and I don't really get that. I mean, to a degree, sure, it's always better if you perform better if you were performing bad in the first place, but you're not addressing the problem of being dog shit in the beginning. And that's a major problem. I mean, again, I mentioned it earlier, the game against Tampa, first drive touchdown, that's the kind of thing to avoid, and the defense starting slow is a major problem and helps it hinders the offense from getting established as well. And while it's great that you improve, it's by doing things that you should be doing from the onset, from the beginning of the game, things that are sensical, not just based off of how the team's playing during the game, but you can just figure that out based off scouting matchups before the game. Like this, that's where preparation comes into it. And in Gannon's case, a lack thereof, or at least a fear of committing to it. Now, I get the personnel thing. I probably think it's about 40-60 right about there, putting blame on personnel and Gannon, with the 40 being Gannon. But even still, like you're what personnel you have, and you're choosing to work against the strengths of certain players.
Slade didn't follow Evans, right? A perfect example. Slade didn't follow Evans.
Exactly. And you're having TJ Edwards on Gronk, like things like that that just don't make sense. Where you don't need a half of football to figure that out and adjust. That's stuff that going into the game. So, I certainly understand that he has a lot of people say he's a great player developer. And he's had that even before, coming to Philadelphia. That was a compliment people paid him. So I can understand that. I can understand to a degree the interest in him around the league. The Houston Texans interviewed him today. I hope that he takes that job. But it just, I don't see. I see possibly a potential player developer, player motivator as a head coach, possibly if he has that personality down the road. But as far as a coordinator, I don't know that he has the X's and O's skills to get it done. So I have huge question marks on the coaching, major question marks on the personnel. And I don't think you're going to be able to address every need. But if you can finish this draft with a starting safety, a starting linebacker, and a half decent corner, I think that's a win.
Well, also, if Gannon were to get hired, can you imagine like getting a trade with like we get rid of Gannon and bring in like a Vic Fangio or somebody like that, and you're like, oh, this is amazing. Someone who honestly, I think Vic Fangio is done as a head coach. Like I don't think he's going to get another run. So you're getting somebody who's likely to stay for a long time. and that's a good deal.
Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say is there's so many good defensive coordinators available. It's the opposite problem we're having with Jalen Hurts, whereas I think you stick with Jalen Hurts just because of what's available. I think with Gannon, you almost hope he leaves just because of, what's out there. But, our mark, do we want to talk about Sirianni? I can start.
If you guys are,
I will say quickly, I got a D in college, and I thought I was gonna fucking die. My mom was gonna drop me out of college. Just saying.
Well,
did you dorm or were you at
What?
home?
No,
Did you
what?
dorm or were you like commuting?
Oh no, I was dorming. I was 3 hours away from home. My mom was legitimately threatened to drive up to college and take me out of school.
I could believe that. Okay.
You can carry on.
I mean, do we just want to end it there? I don't know.
No, I think
so-
that's the note.
Yeah, with
So really-
Sirianni. Sorry, Brian. You want to talk about Sirianni?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, what are your impressions of our first year head coach? In my opinion, the Gardner Minshew game to me it brought a lot of things to light. Seeing how effective he made Gardner Minshew in that offense. I know it's against the Jets, but the point of it is how they ran the offense, how efficient Minshew was with throwing with anticipation, things of that sort. So, are you guys sold on Sirianni going forward?
Yes.
I am. Yeah, for sure. I don't see. I think one of the things that obviously everyone questions is why wasn't he running the ball earlier? Why weren't we doing this sooner? I do think, and this is an interesting point. I've seen this a lot quoted on a lot of different places. Is he really believed what we worked in the preseason and what worked in training camp was going to translate to the season, and it just didn't. Like what Jalen Hurts was good at in training camp, he was not good at in the regular season. And he wasn't able to do that to the same level, and I think that probably is part of the reason why it took him so long to adjust. But I think overall he did adjust. And we saw the Eagles going to run against bad teams, but we saw him make good decisions. We saw him get more creative. We saw him, late in the year in his bag in December, pulling out good looks, creative plays, really nice stuff on 3rd and 1. I think we have a good coach, and I'm excited for him.
I think Sirianni was beginning of the season running an offense that he would run for Carson Wentz. And I think he was trying to force it on Jalen Hurts to see if he was the passer, and even close that Carson Wentz was. And then once, after a few games too many, then he went to play Jalen Hurts' strengths.
This is the only time I say that great minds think alike. Because I said that for the past 4 weeks in a row. That's the only time I'm gonna give you credit. Say great minds alike.
Fucking change my thing. But after the game on Sunday, I said I absolutely love Hurts. I love what he's done. I love the way he's commanded this team and brought this team together. They've had a chemistry this year that they haven't had since 2017. But I can't help but think Sirianni's offense with a pocket passer, who goes through his reads and sees what's going on down the field. Sirianni, during his whole NFL coaching career, has only known pocket passers, and it's really been two big ones. It's been Phillip Rivers and Jacoby Brissett. He had Rivers in San Diego, and then he had Rivers again in Indianapolis, and he had Jacoby Brissett. And Jacoby Brissett's best year as a pro was under Sirianni. So these guys who just stay in the pocket and go through the reads, they responded to Sirianni's coaching. It's safe to, as much as we've clowned Wentz this year, and rightfully so, he's a bum. But it's warranted to think about how Wentz would have done this year with Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, and even if Zach Ertz stayed with Sirianni as a coach. I think he would have done really well. Would he have still fumbled all the time? Probably. But would he have still had stupid decisions? Probably, because that's him. But I think this offense would have catered to him more, and he probably would have been a 300 to 310 yard passer per game just because of the way the offense is. Now,
So you're saying Devontae Smith would have crossed 1,000 yards receiving?
I think he would have had 1,100, 1,200 yards with Carson Wentz as
Easily,
quarterback.
yeah. I mean, if you look at where he is, where he was at the end of this season, you'd have to say
he's
so.
at what? 900. He's at 917
does,
now. But how many games did he have? 1 reception, 2 receptions?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Does that not bother anybody? Like, that's when I say wasted years. Like, that's what bothers me the most. Like, wasting talent. Like,
it kind of looks like it bothers Devonta Smith if you look at the sidelines.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
I mean, rightfully so. And that's actually probably the biggest and best criticism of Sirianni is that he has not, he spent too much time, dawdling around, giving time to Jalen Reagor and throwing, spending so much time. I mean, every offense does it now, but spending so much time playing sideline to sideline instead of trying to get the ball down the field or just gain positive yards. So many screens that never go anywhere. That's definitely the problem. But I think overall it's still been a good situation with him. And it is, I think, Bryan, you said this earlier, the Jets game said a lot about him. It had a lot, that he could really work with another cornerback who's just a pocket passer and that it would go really well. And I think that's pretty impressive.
Sorry, Kyle, but we got something going on in the chat.
We're being spammed by porn.
Yeah, I mean, we're reaching the 1.5 hour mark. It's only about time,
Hell yeah!
No, I mean, hey, honestly, how time they got on here. Look at us, we deserve this. Bunch of good-looking dudes.
Look what happens when I return. Look at that.
Yeah, well, all right. Favorite services, guys. We'll move on from the Knicks here. I might as well talk about porn. It's taking over, right? So,
yeah.
Zach, do you want to go ahead? You want to tackle the Sirianni question?
Yeah. So, I think Sirianni has definitely earned a vote of confidence going into future years. He's shown a good amount. I wonder. Obviously, he has his own faults, and especially earlier in the year, we saw that. I wonder how many things that went wrong for this team this year weren't 100% on him. When you look at the emphasis placed on getting Jalen Reagor the ball, the involvement of Whiteside in the offense as a blocker, and I understand that Sirianni, historically likes a blocker in his offense, but there's a huge difference between JJ Arcega-Whiteside and Zach Pascal from an ability standpoint. So that's a personnel limitation there. And so, thinking specifically about Reagor, listen, he's the coach. He's the one who's calling these plays, aside from when Hurts has an in the moment overrule. So you can only say so much, but if Rager's off the team going forward, which I think
he's not going to be released because that's a dead cap hit, but it's possibly that he.
Well, no, I mean, so yeah, it's what is it? It's about $10 million over 2 years, something like that. $8 million next year, something like that. Yeah, I know,
but still,
I think
the optics of releasing him.
More so if there's a way to move him.
Sirianni's not tied to him. There's no
Sirianni personally is not. No, so my question.
I know how he is, but
yeah, exactly. It's how much of this is pressure coming from Howie and Sirianni in year 2. He might have a little more cojones to be able to say well, I'm the head coach, so I'm not gonna force the ball to a guy who's gonna do dick all with it like Jalen Reagor. So
we're probably not seeing J-Jaw next year.
I'm sure not. After this year, I'm sure
right now with Hightower not being given a futures contract.
Yeah,
you only have, and I know Deion Kane has a futures contract, but really the only 4 wide receivers on the roster right now are Smith, Watkins, Reagor, and J-Jaw.
Yeah. Keyshawn Johnson, you don't think it's another chance? He got some playoffs.
He didn't get a futures contract, I don't think.
No. I mean, I was surprised
for big moves.
I think there was only one wide receiver who got a futures contract. That was Deion Kane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, you can from those 4, you can get to 6 very easily a number of different ways. Whether you have a later round flyer on a receiver, you should be targeting a high level performing veteran wide receiver no matter what. Whether it's in the trade market or free agency. And if you can get to 6 that easy, you can get to 7 not that difficult. And that's in a situation where you'd be moving on from Reagor. somehow. I know there's a lot of people who are like, just take the dead cap hit. I don't know if that's the route that they go. I don't know what the cap implications are in a trade of Rager, but I think that's more the route they try and go, is send him to a team who's looking to take a flyer on a young receiver. But in any case, not having him involved in the offense, which if you bring in those higher level receivers is more of a possibility. I think that
they could also even go young in the draft.
Yeah, well, I mean, no matter how you get better receivers, which it won't be hard to get better performing receivers, you're going to be seeing fewer of these negative impacts on Sirianni's resume, where you're looking at, oh well, here goes another forcing the issue to Jalen Rager. Here's another bubble screen to Rager, whatever the case may be. You're not seeing those situations as much. Just the absence of targets for Rager and Whiteside going forward, I think is going to make Nick Sirianni look a lot better.
I would not be opposed to a first round receiver again.
Trayvon
Burks, depending on who's available, and I mean who's available as in what receivers are available and
Burks
what other players are available. I'm not inherently against it either. It's not my go-to, but I won't say I'm against the idea. I won't be mad at it.
Okay.
You want to tackle it, Brian? Or you want me to go first?
Wait, what are you talking about now?
Sirianni. We're still talking about Sirianni.
I thought I was going to bed.
Sorry.
Last one. You can go to bed.
Guys, I haven't done this in 5 months. Like, let me ease into this.
And we started a half hour later too.
Jesus
the beast
Christ.
apparently has no stamina.
I don't.
Oh.
Sound like my wife. Oh, wait a minute. Wait, what? What?
Nick Sirianni, I think, is gonna be he's gonna be good for the Eagles in the future. He's gonna be good for the Eagles for years to come. His just the way he approaches the his players and the culture that he developed in Philly is phenomenal. You have players that will ride for people speak about how much the players will ride for Jalen Hurts, but nobody puts enough emphasis on how much these players will ride for Nick Sirianni. He turned 10-year, 12-year veterans into fans of his own, and he rejuvenated a completely devastated culture in Philadelphia. I mean, we were coming off a season where we were 4-11-1, and it was just like everybody felt dead. Wentz is gone, Peters is gone. Howie's doing this, Howie's doing that. Well, great. Now we have a new coach that's Howie's yes man. All this, has a bad first press conference too. Now he's not only a knowledgeable guy, but when he's in his bag, like Kyle said before, like he gets in his bag and he's just like there's no stopping him, which is great to see. But it's great to see with a good quarterback. So yeah, you could go.
I think everyone made some good points. I think Zach, especially talking about the lacking personnel. I think that's a valid case. What I think in general for a first-year head coach and a first-year offensive coordinator, I think we saw what we expected. I think there was some growing pains there, but so I'm happy with the first season. What I really want to see, and it's similar with Hurts, is just like where the progression goes, because there's a lot of things that he didn't put in the playbook and stuff that from us outside looking in, like we saw. For example, okay, you're running reverses with Jalen Rager. We didn't fake that ever. We saw there was this one play that they ran in preseason where Jalen Rager would motion and they motioned back and they threw a screen out. We didn't see any of that. We saw a lot of slip screens, or not a lot of like a couple of tight end slip screens. Didn't see any of those like double slip screens that we saw from Doug Peterson, and even when they had two tight ends. We saw a lot of wide receiver screens. Didn't see any fakes. I know like the Bucs, who were on a very simple offense, even did that kind of thing where they're faking screens. On the run game, didn't see any tosses until late in the season, right? So there's a lot of development here that needs to be developed. The play action, like it's there, right? So it's a great running team, and the play action was just lacking, right? Not that much play action this year. There's a lot of stuff that can be developed, but I think that the framework for what this offense can be looks really good. I think Brian made a good point about like just the culture looks really good. But if this offense is the same offense next year, I think there's an issue.
Like, I think we need different flowers.
Exactly.
We can't have the same flowers.
Yeah, like succulents, cacti.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
All brand new flowers. Agreed.
Exactly.
Plant a new garden.
Yeah,
God.
yeah, but just there needs to be some development. I'm happy with what I saw, but the
To
next
have a
step
beautiful garden, you need differentiation.
that's
You
what I'm
can't just
saying.
have the same flowers.
We planted the seeds, but you have to
You have to
mulch now,
diversify.
you got it exactly. So
Yeah. So we're at the hour 20 mark. This is our season finale, so we'll be taking a bit of a break from now to when do we usually come back, Chris? Like March or
Like mid-March.
All
Mhm.
right, mid-March.
that being
without
said,
prospects.
guys, the interaction won't stop. So if you guys hit us up on Twitter about what you want to see, man, we would love that. Stuff
Don't
like
talk
that,
to
just
me on
ideas. Well, yeah, don't talk to Chris on
Don't
Twitter.
talk to me.
And Bryan, just make sure you're really nice to him because he gets really upset quickly.
Listen,
But
I just don't get it. Like it just I hate when things don't make sense to me. If it doesn't make sense, it just drives me nuts. I hate stupidity. With that case,
Duck, I would say I probably won't be available for a live draft, but because I will most likely
PSN will probably do one for sure, though.
I will most likely be in Philadelphia for
Mm-hmm.
a draft. That's track season, and we'll be at Ben Relays.
I really love Morgan just mid Chris saying he can't be there. Oh, but there'll still be one even without.
We got
Chris.
this. We
That's not
still
a
run it.
problem.
Don't worry.
Like,
Don't worry.
No,
So
it doesn't even
they
matter.
meant like live
It's not
draft,
even a
like
thought.
wait, Duck, you mean like live draft on computer? Because I'll bring my computer with me. I thought you meant like at a bar or something.
Yeah, Ben, real quick, Liam, unfortunately, Tuesday is a really bad day.
Liam's
for him.
too busy having sex with his girlfriend at this point.
Yeah, well,
So this is
We
our
wanna
season
have
finale.
fun.
We'll be back mid-March.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Chris
let's not
will be
get
back.
into the boss's problems. Or
That's not at all. Kyle and Zach, really quick for the people who are just Kyle, you were on the podcast earlier this season, but Zach, this is the first time you've been on Flippin the Birds. For the people that are just meeting you today, like where can they find your work? And
Yeah, so I'm typically NBA focused. As you can probably tell by my Twitter handle. So I run the Sixers team for Philly Sports Network. So definitely check out the whole team's work, phillysportsnetwork.com. For you Sacramento Kings fans out there, royalpain.com, site expert there also. But also the host of the Baseline Scoop, that is PSN's Sixers podcast. So if you want to hear more about the Sixers, definitely check out the Baseline Scoop. This year, none of this is really known information yet, but there's going to be a lot of changes to the podcast. Okay, it's going to lead to a lot more consistency, more guests, possibly even a co-host. So definitely check it out. And yeah, shoot me a follow on Twitter. Be
there
cool.
we go. And Kyle, what about you, bro?
Hey, well, first off, Zach, I'll follow you on Twitter. I got you.
I appreciate that. For those who don't know, Kyle and I actually, just a little fun nugget. We played on the same basketball team growing up. So we go technically my longest PSN connection.
Yeah,
was
we
Chris
go
the
way
coach?
back.
Yeah,
I was the coach. I was the
Yeah,
coach.
he was the coach. He
I was
didn't help us
coach.
then
Yeah, Chris
either.
was
It
the
was
coach.
it was me and Zach.
I ran Zach at the one. You cannot stop him.
No. I was Escalade out there with it. Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. No, he was smooth. He was smooth out there.
Cannot stop him.
Yeah, well, you guys can find me on Twitter at Kyle Hulehan. I'm putting out articles and I drop in on pods here and there. That's pretty much where you can find me with all of this. And I mean, I'm looking to contribute more, and draft season's my season, guys.
Draft season.
So you're going to get a lot of articles, a lot of interesting stuff on draft coverage, and you're going to find it all at the Philly Sports Network.
And for Chris, I think I can speak from Morgan and myself that we are very, very happy that you made it to the season finale. We definitely miss your beautiful face.
You gotta thank the grandparents for that, because my son is at my parents' house, so only my daughter had to go to bed tonight, so I was free.
You can find
There we
Chris
go.
haunting the DMs of NFL analysts all over Twitter.
Somewhat.
So-
I need all of our longtime followers to hound Benjamin Solak, because he has not fucking answered my DM, and I need his input on an article that I'm writing, and he has not answered me. So everyone just tag him and say, Ben, what the fuck?
Okay.
I got you.
Yeah.
Put it in your own words. Yeah, Brian, we got to
maybe give Ben a little bit more of a hint than that as to what you're mad about. But yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, guys, this is Flippin the Birds. I'm Bryan Cameron alongside Morgan Burkett. Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Presented by TickPick.
Better
Great
seats, better prices, Papa John's.
No fees.
Oh.
No fees. Anyways,
If you're gonna pick something to get a tick, you better go to tick pick.
There we go.
Oh no, not a tick, like tick in the.
That being said, we
bushes.
actually are very grateful for our sponsors, Tick Pick. Yes. So thank you again, Bryan. You have a line, right? You always do it better than I do. So
expert ad read here.
So Chris, I don't know if you actually listened to the last podcast.
No.
I had a moment at Dunkin' Donuts where a woman was walking into Dunkin' Donuts holding the door for me because I had a lot of stuff in my hand, and I had my Eagles hat. She said, "Go Birds!" So very excitingly, I'm like, "Yes, sir." It was like a trigger. It was weird. It just came out of my body. So it was a little awkward situation. But yes, this is Flippin the Birds. until March.
That's a strong ending right there. That's fantastic.
Before we go, quick, fuck you, Jay Fizzle.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in March.
Go Birds.
Yes, sir.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.